Welcome to the Anti-Burnout Club, an exclusive club for those who are over the hustle culture BS, those who are tired of burning out and feeling stressed, and those who want to thrive while still becoming a success. I'm Beck Spiller, an accidental poet, an anxious entrepreneur, and your host. Welcome to the club. Hello and welcome back to the Anti-Burnout Club. It has been a very long time and I can only apologise that I kind of just disappeared for a few months. It's been a difficult couple of months, as I imagine it has been for lots and lots of other people. And I was going to do a podcast episode kind of updating you on where I'd been and what had happened. But every time I try to do it, I just found it too difficult to actually verbalise. So I decided to do a post on it instead. If you go to theantiburnouttclub.com and go to the podcast section, you'll see that there's an update post there that says why I disappeared. So that kind of explains what's been happening since August and why I had to take some time away from everything really. I kind of avoided social media and just focused on getting some things fixed. Now, at the end of that post, I explain that Jake kind of had this brainwave that I was really lacking routine. And I was kind of wandering around the house like a ghost. I didn't really know what the point was in getting up every morning. I didn't really have any good habits or just anything to keep me going throughout the day. And it was his revelation that made me think, well, yeah, that's definitely something I need to get back. I need to get a routine back. And I need some sort of normality back into my life. And I know that with everything going on in the world at the moment, people are working from home. There are many countries that are locked down. We're currently in lockdown 2.0, as everyone so lovingly calls it. Routine is something that's really difficult to kind of get into when you don't know where you're going to be one day or the next. Am I going to be working from home for the next 2 months? Am I going to be going back into the office? Will my routine change? But it's really important that we have some kind of routine and some kind of ways of forming habits that are good for us. Even if we will need to adapt those when we go back into offices or to workplaces, or, when shifts change and things like that, I think it's really important, one, to help prevent burnout, but two, also if you are starting to feel burnt out, having something to hold on to and having some normality in a routine can really, really help. So today I'm going to talk through what I do to kind of come up with a routine and to form better habits. And as always, on the site, you'll find a blog post that goes with this podcast. And on there will be kind of all the things that I talk about, any resources that I talk about. And I've also put some free printables or downloadables on there as well that can help you kind of go through what I'm explaining here. So there's a daily routine, a habit tracker, and an end of day check-in. If you go to the blog post that accompanies this podcast, then you will see them there. Just pop your email address in and it will send it to you straight away. Whenever I think about routines, the first person that pops into my head for some reason is Super Nanny. Now, that might be a strange connection to make, but if anyone's ever watched Super Nanny, then you'll know that the most unruly children are the ones that tend to need routine. And I know this, being an unruly child myself without much of a routine, that, having this sense of control, having something that this is going to happen next can really help ground us. And it is something that many of us have as children, that our parents set for us. We have a set routine. We wake up in the morning, we do this, we do that, we go to school. We go to different lessons where, we know we've got maths first, then we've got PE, then we've got English, and we have schedules. And then we get home and then we eat jammy Dodgers in front of Nickelodeon. We have dinner, we have a bath, we read a book, we go to bed. Those routines are kind of instilled in us as children. And as we get older, we kind of follow some routine, but we also let the world around us dictate our routine. So for example, if you commute to work, then you know that you have to get the train at 8 o'clock in the morning to get in to the office for 8:45, for example. Or you know you have to leave the house at 7:30 to drive to work. And if you're anything like me, that means getting out of bed at 7:15, putting some clothes on and getting in the car. But we don't really look at routine like we did as children, or as Super Nanny sees it, this way of grounding us and giving us some structure. That seems to get lost as we become adults. And with that, it can be really easy to burn out because we don't know when to stop certain things. You know, it can be easy to work 14-hour days when you're working from home because you have no routine and you have no stopping point. You're not saying at 5 o'clock, I'm going to close my laptop down and I'm going to follow the next part of my routine. Instead, you're saying, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I could finish work, or I could carry on with this and I could do that. And then all of a sudden it's 7 o'clock in the evening and you're still working and you're tired and you're exhausted and overwhelmed. So I do believe that setting a routine and setting habits can really, really help with burnout. And just all of us at the moment, working from home or being furloughed. And if you're anything like me, feeling like you don't have a whole lot to wake up for in the morning anymore and wandering around the house like a ghost in your pajamas. So over the last week or so, I've been working on building my routine, building better habits. And I thought it would probably be a great time to talk to you about what I've been doing and how I've been integrating this routine into my life. Now, obviously, not everyone is going to have the same amount of time to fit things into their routine. And I've tried to include some things that you can kind of do just on the go. It doesn't matter whether you've got kids running around the house getting ready for school or you need to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning. These are all things that hopefully you should be able to include in your routine. And there are some things that you may need a little bit more time for. And I'm not the kind of person that's going to say to you, you need to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to have the perfect routine, to be successful. You need to be up, exercising, doing this, doing that. I don't believe in any of that hustle culture nonsense. I think that you have to build a routine that works for you and works around your life. That's really important. But the other important thing to remember is don't try to change everything at once. Look at this as small actionable steps that you can take to start building different parts of your routine. Don't just wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to do this, 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 and this because Beck said I need a routine. Instead, look at one thing that you can change for a few days and then another thing that you can change for a few days. If you try to do it all at once, you'll potentially find it quite overwhelming and you'll just want to give up and go back to whatever life was like before. So just try to take it step by step, add something new into your routine every few days or once a week, and don't beat yourself up if it doesn't quite go to plan. If you have a day where everything's fallen apart and you can't keep to your routine, don't go, oh, well, that's it, I've blown it. Because it's really important that, as with anything, we have that consistency. And if there is a bump in the road, then we go, okay, that was a bump in the road. I'm going to pick this straight back up wherever I left it off. So the way that I like to build my routines is in 4 sections. And again, this is helpful if you want to introduce a little bit at a time, because you can start off with one section, start building your routine from there, and then work on another section. The first section is my morning routine. Now, this was the hardest one to break because if you're anything like me, the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is you pick up your phone, you scroll on social media, you go on to the news and you'll have a look at all of the doom and gloom going on in the world. And then your day's already starting on the wrong foot. So for me, it was a really hard habit to break, was to not look at my phone first thing in the morning. A good way to do this is to put your phone on charge somewhere else and get another alarm. I use a sunrise alarm, which is absolutely amazing in the winter as well, because it slowly wakes you up with light. It feels a bit like a summer morning until it goes too bright. And then you're like, am I going on holiday? Why are all the lights on? As my husband seems to think every time it goes off. So if you can, move your phone away from you. If you need it for an alarm, plug it in somewhere that you can't reach it first thing in the morning. The second thing that I've been trying to put into my morning routine is to have a glass of water before I have my coffee. Now, this was another hard one to break. I've spoken before about my love of caffeine, and I was drinking a coffee first thing, and it feels so, now that I've started drinking water in the morning and then having my coffee, I realized how dehydrated I was. And how that I thought the coffee was waking me up, but actually I think my body just needed liquid. And so drinking a glass of water, of cold water that I put by the side of my bed every night, wake up, have that, is just so invigorating. I'm like, this is what I've been missing. I then don't need a coffee for another half hour to an hour. Whereas it used to be, as soon as I opened my eyes, the kettle went on, I had a cup of coffee. So a glass of water by the side of your bed at night time, so when you wake up, you're rehydrating your body first thing in the morning, has just been a savior for me. The next thing in my morning routine is moving in a way that works for me. Now, this can be whatever you want it to be. So for me, it could be walking the dogs. It could be doing some mindful stretching. If I have time, doing some yoga. If I don't have time, then I dance around the house while I'm emptying the dishwasher. If you have children, it could be running around the house, chasing your children, telling them to get their socks and shoes on to go to school. Just moving your body and doing it with intention. So if you are running around after the kids, then knowing that you're using your body, you're moving it, wave your arms about, like have some fun with it. The kids will laugh. They'll think you're absolutely bonkers, but you're moving and you're getting that blood pumping first thing in the morning. Now, if I have time, I also like to try and squeeze in some meditation. I use the Headspace app. There are loads of other meditation apps out there. And what I'll do is, as soon as I've moved about the house a little bit, I've done some yoga or whatever, I'll just have 10 minutes to sit down, put my headphones in and listen to some meditation. Sometimes I'm super busy and I'm super distracted and I'm like, I don't really have the time, but it really does ground me. And there are lots and lots of meditation apps, and there's lots of different meditation lengths. So some of them are just a couple of minutes long. So if you can squeeze in a couple of minutes just to ground yourself and to get your day started on a good foot, then I would highly recommend trying to squeeze some in. And then the last two things on my morning routine are a quick skincare routine. If I don't have a lot of time, I did a whole post and a video on this. I did a 3-minute skincare routine that just kind of makes me feel good after I've had my shower. I will spend longer on this if I have the time or on the weekends, but it's good to just 3 minutes of washing your face, moisturizing, feeling good, and then getting changed into something that makes me feel good. Now, if you follow me on Instagram at Anti-Burnout Club, then you'll know that this week I've started something called #FancyFrockDown, where I'm basically getting dressed up in clothes that I would probably wear out to dinner or dancing or whatever else, just because it makes me feel good. And I found that I'm actually way more productive when I get dressed up. So I've been wearing sparkly dresses and frilly skirts and things like that. And it doesn't have to be as over the top as I'm doing it. It can just be putting on a pair of earrings that you really love that make you feel happy, or wearing that nice big cozy jumper that makes you feel like all warm and yummy inside. Like anything that makes you feel good that is preferably not your pajamas. Because if you've been sleeping in your pajamas all night and then you're going like about your day in the same pajamas, your body's in sleep mode. It's like, well, I don't want to do anything. I'm still wearing my pajamas. All I want to do is crawl back into bed. And that was something that I really needed to break over the last few months, was just lying about in my pajamas all the time. Or I would have a shower and I'd put on a clean set of pajamas or some leggings and a pajama top. Like I just wasn't feeling very good about myself. And when we're all working from home or we're furloughed, the last thing most of us want to do is get dressed. Like, what's the point in pulling out that fancy dress that I was going to wear to the Christmas party that's probably not happening anymore? But then when are you going to wear it? Like, why save it for best? Why not save it for now? Wear it now. So section 1 is my morning routine, and those are interchangeable. You know, sometimes I don't have time to do yoga or meditate or whatever, but I do try to definitely not touch my phone first thing in the morning, and definitely drink a glass of water before my coffee. If I don't have time to meditate, then I will just sit with my thoughts instead of scrolling on my phone first thing in the morning, and tell myself nice things about me and other people, and that seems to get me in a good mood as well. So the second section is my daytime routine, and this is specifically for work days. When it comes to weekends, it's the time that I get to spend with Jake. And so I don't tend to be as strict in my routines, because it might be that we want to go for a long dog walk and then it starts raining. So instead we curl up in front of Netflix. So with this routine, I specifically have put daytime routine work days on the blog post, because I like to have a bit more flexibility at the weekend. And the first thing I do is actually something I do the night before, and that's to complete my to-do list at the end of each day. So if you're the kind of person that starts your workday writing out your to-do list, and then you're procrastinating on, oh, should I try and fit that in today, or should I do that tomorrow? Do I need to call Sheila, or is Sheila going to call me? I can't remember now. Oh, I best check on Facebook actually to see what's like. If you start with a to-do list in the morning, or the minute you start work, the chances are you're going to procrastinate for ages. So try to do it at the end of your workday the day before. So at the end of Friday, do your to-do list for Monday. At the end of Monday, do your to-do list for Tuesday, and so on. And that means that the first thing you can do at the beginning of your workday is to check your to-do list. A very quick scan. Right, this is what I have to do today. Done. I can get on with it, instead of spending all that time thinking, well, what was I supposed to do today? What should I do today? On the free downloadables that I've included on the blog post, you'll find an end of day check-in with a to-do list on it. So that's the perfect time to fill in your to-do list. When you start your workday the next day, have a look through that to-do list and you're ready to go. I also really like using the app Todoist. And there are loads and loads of other apps if you prefer to do it on your phone. But I'm very much a tick person. I like a piece of paper in front of me that I can tick off and say, yep, I've definitely done that. Okay, so the next thing I do to then get into the work mode is to use the Pomodoro technique. Again, I've explained how to use this on the blog. I've actually written an entire post on this, so you'll find a link to that on the podcast blog. And that's basically 25 minutes of focus work, 5 minutes of break. During that break, I like to get up, move around, stretch, do something that isn't sitting in front of the computer, and just take that time for myself. The thing is that we are not made to be productive for exactly 7.5, 8, 9 hours a day. It just doesn't work like that. So this Pomodoro technique, what it does is it splits our days up into manageable chunks where we can be focused. We can stay focused for 25 minutes. Then we have a 5-minute break away from whatever we're doing. And then we can go back to being focused again. And if you get into the habit of doing this, you'll be surprised at how much more you can get done than sitting in front of a computer for, say, 4 hours straight without any break, thinking, well, I need to be in front of my computer to be productive, and then actually spending a lot of the time watching people's Instagram stories or just kind of faffing about, being like, oh, I don't really know what to do. So this Pomodoro technique is really, really good for making sure we make the most of our focus and our attention span. I also like to work on the hardest and the most daunting tasks first. So this was another little productivity hack that I put up recently, and that's my 2-minute trick. So if I'm really struggling to get into the zone and I think, I really don't want to do this thing, the big scary task that I've been putting off, and it was on yesterday's to-do list and now it's on today's and it will probably go on to tomorrow's, then I use a 2-minute trick. And that is basically setting your timer for 2 minutes and working on it. And I've written a post on how that works and why it works. It's fascinating. It was something that my CBT therapist taught me. And when I have those big scary tasks that are normally at the top of my to-do list to do first thing in the morning, and I'd rather be scrolling through Instagram, I set my 2-minute timer and I just start working on it. And then with all the easier, the smaller admin type tasks, I leave those until the end of the day, just because they're mindless tasks for the most part that I don't have to spend a lot of time and attention on. I'd rather use my energy and, my brain's fresh and working properly first thing in the morning, which is why I record my podcasts in the morning and I write my blogs in the morning. And then after lunch, when you get that little bit of a slump or you need an afternoon nap, then I'll do my kind of smaller task and my admin type tasks. However, I know that some people work the other way around, and this baffles me. I'm sure there's many of you out there that you can't concentrate first thing in the morning, you work much better in the afternoon or evening. If that's the case, swap them round. So do your admin type tasks in the morning, your emails, your bits and pieces, and then in the evenings when you're feeling more alert and you're with it, then do your harder tasks. Once they're all done, I do my to-do list ready for tomorrow again. I clear my desk and I close my door. My office door gets closed. If you don't have a separate room that you work in, then close down your laptop, put away your paperwork and actually put them away. Anywhere, it doesn't matter, under the bed, just out of sight, out of mind. Because we want to get out of that work mode and now into it's the evening, it's time to relax, it's time to wind down. And that actually starts my evening routine. So stepping away from all work, putting away all work materials, anything that reminds me of work goes away and I close the door, I close the cupboard, it's all gone. Then I know my evening routine has started. Now, this is an example of habit stacking, and it's something that James Clear writes about in Atomic Habits, which is a great book that I talk about all the time. I feel like he should be paying me. But habit stacking is basically saying that once I've done habit A, I will do habit B. And this obviously works really well in a routine because it gives you that structure and it makes you kind of think, well, now I've done that, I need to move on to this. And you know what you're doing next. You're not spending time going, okay, well, I finished that. So what shall I do? So I know when my laptop is closed and it's put away that my evening routine starts. Habit A, closing the laptop, leads to habit B, which is the beginning of my evening routine. And in my case, I like to move again if I have the time. I've been, I did some movement in the morning. I've been doing movement and stretches throughout the day. And then if I have the time or energy, even just 5 minutes around the block, if I can get outside, that this is the perfect time for me because I'm already feeling really fatigued from the day's work and I need some fresh air to really kind of wake me up for my evening routine. And then I have my usual evening routine things that involves making dinner, chatting with Jake when he finally gets home from work, and just doing the things that I know are my evening routine, and they may be completely different for you. So I'm not going to run through exactly what I do every evening. Sometimes it is just sitting in front of Netflix for 2 hours. But one important thing that I do have in my evening routine is to put my phone away by a certain time. This means that I've got the time to dedicate to talking to my husband or focusing on a film. How many times have we sat there watching a film, scrolled through social media or something, and then we're like, what's happening with the film again? So just putting my phone away and dedicating that time to being really mindful and spending time with the people around me. Obviously, if your phone is the people around you, if you are isolated at the moment or you are on your own, then completely ignore me. Use your phone as much as you want. Talk to your loved ones. But for me, putting my phone away, not looking at Instagram after a certain time is really important for me. And then right at the end of the day, I have a cup of tea and grab a book. I've actually got 3 books on the go at the moment, which is really silly because I'm getting so confused. But I like a cup of tea and a book before bed. It's my wind down time. I know that people are like, how can you drink tea before bed? It's got caffeine in it. But I think there's something about it that just makes me really sleepy. If tea doesn't work for you, hot chocolate is perfectly acceptable, or just something, warm milk. Oh, I love warm milk with sugar in a tea bag. But anything that gets you into that, it's bedtime routine. And this is really important as well for those who find it hard to fall asleep. having that routine, again, it's habit stacking. So I know that once I've made my cup of tea and I've picked up my book, that it is bedtime, it is wind down time. I'll probably spend the next half an hour drinking my tea, reading some pages of my book, lights go off, it's bedtime. And then finally, I have the anytime routine. So these are things that if you download the routine printable, then you'll see that I've got an anytime section. Now, these are things that I'm like, I need to fit this in somewhere. It's not really important when I do it. It'll be things like putting the washing on, or making sure that I'm really kind to someone that day. Something that I know that I need to get in to the day, but I don't need to specifically do it in the morning or do it in the evening. It just needs to be done by the end of the day. So that's the 4 sections of the routine. And then the next thing I've got in the printable is a daily habit tracker. Again, these are weekday things because I just think that the weekend, unless you work the weekend, in which case I feel your pain. I worked weekends for the majority of my life, but having some structure Monday to Friday, just having those habits, for me, it's skincare in the morning, skincare in the evening, practicing gratitudes, moving every day, just writing those out and ticking them off. The sensation you get from just ticking something off your to-do list or your habit tracker it's like a buzz. You feel good about yourself because you're achieving something, and it doesn't need to be this huge, I've completed an entire work project, look at this. It could just be, I text someone today, checking in on them. And then finally, I've got the end of day check-in. Now, what we sometimes forget to do is praise ourselves for how well we did that day. And so this end of day check-in starts off with what went well today. We can so often just focus on all the things that went wrong. I sent the wrong email to someone, or I used the wrong name, or my kids came running in the Zoom meeting and really embarrassed me in front of a new client, or it just all of those things that we get caught up in that have seemingly gone wrong, that we don't really take a step back and go, well, what's gone right today? What went right? Although the kids ran in on the Zoom meeting, the new client loves what I've done. They're really happy. They want to continue working with us. Amazing. Or I got dressed today. I've spent the last 3 months in pajamas and I decided to get dressed up. That went well for me today. So the first thing to do is to write what went well. The second thing is to write things that you are grateful for. So it's similar to what went well, but thinking on a grander scale. So things like, I'm grateful for a roof over my head in these times. I'm grateful that I am safe and healthy. I'm grateful for my family or my loved ones, my friends. I'm grateful for my 2 little dogs. I'm grateful that I went for a walk around the block, or I spoke to someone that I hadn't spoken to in a long time. Just these, I say on a grander scale, but actually maybe even smaller things that we don't think about as often as we should. Those things that we are really grateful for, that we have in our lives, happiness and health and a roof over our heads and food. And I think practicing gratitude at the end of every day can really help with things like burnout, because we realize the things that matter are not perhaps working 14-hour days, but it's the half an hour laughing and joking with our kids before bed, or that hour-long phone conversation we had with a friend that we hadn't spoken to in months. Those are the things that really matter. And understanding that and practicing those gratitudes every day can really, really help when it comes to burnout. And then finally, you've got your to-do list. So write out all of the things that you have to do tomorrow and get them out of your head. Brain dump them out of your mind so you're not sitting up at night going, oh, I completely forgot to email Sheila. Just get them out of your head and then it's done. So that's how I build my routines, and that's what works for me. But like I said, everyone is going to be different and everyone's going to have their own way of building routines and habits that work for them. Hopefully this has given you a bit of inspiration on how you can build yours and what to put in it. And like I said, there'll be a blog post with all of this information and some extra resources that I found that I think might be helpful. And hopefully by bringing some sense of routine and schedule and habits back into your life, it won't feel so overwhelming. And when things change, we know how to adapt those routines and what can I still fit in, when I've got that hour and a half commute again, what can I fit in? I can still fit in that glass of water in the morning. I can still not scroll through my phone first thing in the morning. I can stick my headphones in and meditate on the train, so build your habits. And then as your life changes, adapt those habits and that routine to fit. And some things may have to go, and that's absolutely fine. Just find what works for you. And that's all I've got time for today. It has been so nice to be back. I feel I'm currently sitting in front of a mirror because my office is full of junk. So I'm now in what we're calling the Zen den. And it's been really odd looking at myself in the mirror for the last however long as I'm chatting away. But it's been so nice to be back in front of the microphone. Thank you to everyone that's kind of waited for me or just kind of been like, oh yeah, she's disappeared. I'm sure she'll be back. And thank you for all of the support that I've been having on social media as well. Please do check out the new site, the Anti-Burnout I worked really hard on it. It's got lots of really cool articles on things like productivity tips and hacks in the success section, and then things like CBT methods in the mind section, lots and lots of self-care tips, and also a body section, which is something that I'm working on with body positivity and how to look after myself and my body better. Nothing to do with weight loss or anything like that, just more how to move and fuel your body in a way that works for you. So please do have a look. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, The Anti-Burnout Club. Please don't forget to subscribe, and we'll talk again very soon.